Grassy Glide is back. What's going on, everyone? It is Zach, and today we are going to talk about a tweet from Victory Road, which is stemming from information newly revealed to us from an article in Famitsu, which talks about the Teal Mask DLC and some of the features that you can expect from it. We're getting some really good news out of it, so let's talk about it. If you guys enjoyed this content, do not forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what move you want to see come back the most. For me, it's definitely Grassy Glide, but there are some other ones that I definitely want to try out and experiment with new items and stuff. So it has been confirmed the return of TM moves first introduced in Sword and Shield DLC in the upcoming DLC Part 1, the Teal Mask. These moves include Grassy Glide, Burning Jealousy, Poltergeist, I almost said Poltergeist, and Lash Out, and Toxic is coming back again as a TM. Now, Grassy Glide is probably the biggest one on this list for VGC players. Toxic is probably pretty good for singles players, but I don't play singles, so these other moves are really good as well, and there are more moves that we can be really hopeful that are coming back. So it comes from this Famitsu article, which I'm not going to try to say this name, but credit to them. They are the writer of this article. They played through some of the Teal Mask DLC and wrote about their experiences. They basically talk about like the features, the selfie sticks, the countryside environment. But what we want to talk about is the competitive stuff. We're not really worried about the story. First off, get a collection of useful tools for raising Pokemon, such as Straight Fresh at the Demon Slaying Festival. So this is going to be called the Demon Slaying Festival in like the direct translation. I'm translating this article from my web browser. And they talk about just collecting the balloons and how you have to drop them off in these little bins. And as you do that, Pokemon will come and try to eat it. So you've got to scare them away. All that fun stuff. They pretty much showed us that in the trailer. But when we talk about the collecting, they said that playing multiplayer is going to yield you better results. So this is something that I'm definitely going to do on stream with people that are watching me, so we can have fun together, but also benefit all of us in collecting more of these items. And they refer to them as like energy drinks, which I guess is probably the more direct translation of vitamins in Japan, because they say max up in taurine. So I'm guessing that's like HP up in one of the vitamins. They talk about the fresh mochi, which seems disadvantageous, but when it comes to training your Pokemon, like you can reset the stats. So these are going to reset the stats. It seems like these are going to be the challenging ones to find. This is going to be the main reason why everyone does it. So it's not as simple as in Sword and Shield, Isle of Armor, where you could just go up and talk to the person as long as you have 5 of the armorites, whatever they were called back then. You could reset the stats. So I think for, depending on how many of these you get, it would probably still be better that if you can take a Pokemon back to Sword and Shield and probably use the hundreds. I know that I have hundreds of that item. Reset the stats there. Another thing that's interesting is, in addition to regular rewards, it seems that you may receive special rewards for clearing out the Demon Slaying Festival. In the experience, we were able to see Klecken Aramari. I tried to translate that, and Aramari comes out as charms. I'm probably saying all these words wrong. So charms to do certain things, maybe experience charms, maybe mark charms that we saw in the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra DLCs, those charms to increase those kind of things, which I know that Mark Hunters will be really happy to hear that. And a new tool that increases the experience points that Pokemon can gain in battling just by holding the item. So there's a new like lucky egg, I guess. I really don't see the big deal in that. If you're doing a lot of raids, which you probably are for Terra Shards, then experience candy and rare candy shouldn't be hard to come by. But here is the big information. Add it machine lineup, because the TM machine is technically the technical machine. There were more and more types of machines that could be made with machines. There were many teachings that appeared in the Isle of Armor of Pokemon Sword and Shield, such as Glass Sliders, Moist Cheeks, and Poltergeist. I was also able to confirm the throbbing machines as for existing works. It seems that some Pokemon have been newly learned by adding machines. In addition, a function called Remembering Filter has been added to the machines. You will be able to display only the moves that your Pokemon can learn. So it seems like in the TM machine, there is a new option where you can filter based on what moves the Pokemon are able to learn. We can do this from the summary screen with Remember Move and TM moves learned, but you now can do this for Pokemon within it, which I mean is a little better and could be a little faster. It also seems that new Pokemon are learning these moves as well, so we're going to see an opened up list for some of these moves. And all of these moves that they mentioned, I don't know what Moist Cheeks is supposed to be. Let's find out. I'm scared to search this. Okay, it seems like according to what I searched, Stuffed Cheeks, which has a kind of a low move pool. I don't know how that's going to work, but okay. But I mean, we have Grassy Glide coming back, so that means that Rillaboom should hopefully get Grassy Glide back. If they bring back Grassy Glide and they don't put on Rillaboom, I will be thoroughly upset. Here are the lists of all the Isle of Armor moves coming up, and so let's talk about like what we could see. There's Expanding Force. Expanding Force needs a wider distribution because only Armorogue is getting it right now. And the one thing I noticed is that there weren't a lot of moves that benefited terrain except for Expanding Force. So seeing Misty Explosion, Grassy Glide, and Rising Voltage comes back makes those terrains a little more powerful and a little more useful. And we should see that with more Pokemon coming that can hopefully activate the terrains. When it comes to terrain setters, it's really just Indeedee and Rillaboom. Pincurchin is not really always the mon you want to slap on a team, especially if its main purpose is terrain. Misty Explosion usually comes in the form of Galarian Wheezing, but if you're using Galarian Wheezing, you're probably using Neutralizing Gas. So I don't see Misty Explosion being used all too often. Grassy Glide and maybe Rising Voltage is really just like the only ones. The thing, well, like once Dynamax left, it was really hard to switch around terrains all the time, and it actually became easier to get rid of them with moves like Ice Spinner. Scale Shot is the Dragon type move. It boosts the speed but lowers defense. I think with a White Herb. White Herb's the one that resets stats, yeah. With a White Herb, I could see this doing really well on like Acrobatics, Roaring Moon, maybe. But at that point, why don't you just use Booster Energy? Meteor Beam. I definitely think Meteor Beam's going to come back because Archaludon's move is basically just Meteor Beam. It's like a mixture of Meteor Beam and Solar Beam. But just like Archaludon's move, which I totally forget the name of right now, it boosts special attack. So using it boosts special attack, so you can use a Power Herb and do this in one turn. I do think this needs to be here if they're bringing an electric version of it, especially with that electric version being way stronger, being like 0 turns in rain. And with this raising special attack, why don't they do the same for Solar Beam? Why don't they power up Solar Beam? Because that's what these moves are. Now I have to figure it out. Electro Shot. Like Meteor Beam and Electro Shot are the same thing. They're just different types. The only thing is if it's raining, like Electro Shot doesn't need a turn to charge, which I think is absolutely crazy. And if they're going to do that, maybe either create a way where Meteor Beam, like maybe in Sand, Meteor Beam doesn't need a charge. or give a special attack boost on Solar Beam. I think that like they would all become basically the same move, but like I don't know. I think that's kind of fine. Skitter Smack is a move that lowers special attack. I think this would have been really helpful against Mewtwo because it's a little more powerful than Struggle Bug. Burning Jealousy is another one. Burning Jealousy needs to make a comeback because it is a way to burn Pokemon that are boosting, so it kind of punishes the setup. Can you imagine using Burning Jealousy when Dozo and Tetsugiri come on the field and get a boost, and you can just burn it immediately? Like, that would be really good. Lash Out is pretty good, especially on slower Pokemon. If they have a stat drop and a turn, this move becomes doubled. It definitely doesn't get procced as much as you think it would, but it is still a solid move overall, especially if you need a stronger dark type move. Base power 75 like isn't horrible. Poltergeist is really good here. It attacks with the target's item and it hits them with the item, so it can do a whole lot of damage and get rid of a Pokemon's item, which is really good. Another one, Flip Turn. We've seen Flip Turn get a little wider distribution. I know that Iron Bundle has it. Triple Axle. I really hope they bring back Triple Axle just because that opens up Serena's move pool a little more and makes it handle the flying type Sudden Threatens without Terrestrialization, which can be really good for Serena. If you can go a turn where you don't have to Terrestrialize and instead just use like a move that can knock it out, it's pretty good. Dual Wing Beat. We've still seen Dual Wing Beat on Salamence. Dual Wing Beat is good because it can avoid like focus sash stuff, but then also it is sometimes inaccurate with each turn being 90% accuracy. Scorching Sands, it is 100% accurate, but it is basically just like a weaker but more accurate Sandsteer Storm. So I don't know how well that would get used. I mean, if you want to put it on something that's not Landorus, I think this would be the move that you use. But it definitely, a lot of Pokemon do get it. I think Charizard gets it. It can be a good coverage move. And the last one that I would love to see is Coaching Comeback. Coaching, what Coaching does is that it gives the Pokemon a +1 in attack and defense, which could be really important for a lot of mons. Like, Rolly was used a lot in Sword and Shield because of a lot of its features like Copycat and Coaching. So it could, like, Rolly could go back to being that Eviolite anti-Trick Room team that can really support and boost your opponent, your teammates. But this is all super interesting. I'm really excited. I'm glad these moves come back. Hopefully they go back on the mons that are already in Scarlet and Violet, but like those moves were taken away, like Rillaboom and Hatterene, for example, and Rolly. This is definitely a lot to shake up the metagame. Especially with Regulation E, if they don't ban certain Pokemon, we still don't have a confirmed ban list yet. But if some of these Pokemon coming in or some of these Pokemon that are already in Scarlet and Violet get access to some of these moves, it's definitely going to increase their viability. Like Rolly, for example, with Coaching, Rillaboom with Grassy Glide will become a lot better. Things with Burning Jealousy, like this will give some of these Teal Mask Pokemon a chance to be a little more viable if the Rune Pokemon, if the Paradox Pokemon actually do stay in, which I would have to say at this point, I think that's how it looks. But yeah, we can talk about the moves a little bit more. The big user of Grassy Glide is, of course, Rillaboom. I do think other Pokemon use it, but the reason why Rillaboom uses it so well is because its ability, Grassy Surge, will set grassy terrain on switch-in. So Rillaboom automatically has a priority move in Fake Out, and then it has a priority move that it can use multiple times in multiple turns with Grassy Glide without any additional setup. Now, Rillaboom can always come in and set it up for other people, but why do that when you can just do it all on Rillaboom? The next one is Burning Jealousy. I think Burning Jealousy with the Mirror Herb here is going to actually be really good, because like if you look at something like Zoroark, Zoroark has a 120 special attack if you like max that out and get a +1 off of something like Flatter. Not only is that Pokemon confused, that Pokemon is also going to get burned when it gets hit with the Burning Jealousy. So I do think that can be a really cool strategy there as a quick way to shut down some physical attackers and also do a lot of damage. As well as I also believe that probably Hisuian Zoroark will get Burning Jealousy as well. I'm in the VGC 2022, so I can pull up these moves and see their descriptions. But with Burning Jealousy on Hisuian Zoroark, you can cover a lot of stuff really well. Like you can do a lot of damage and catch your opponents off guard. You know, it might be gimmicky because all they have to do is lead in it, like get a stat boost before you. But I don't know. I'm definitely gonna try it. I'm definitely gonna try it. Back in Sword and Shield, I made a video where I tried to do something like this with Chandelure and Grimmsnarl and like Swagger and Flatter. But now that the Mirror Herb is around, and this is what I was talking about with certain moves, now that the Mirror Herb is around, this could be even better, because if you Flatter an opponent, like you're also going to get the +1. So not only are you going to burn them, but you can get the +1 off of Mirror Herb, off of that Flatter. And then you have a chance to roll for a confusion hit. Like, I think that can be really good. Next out is Lash Out. Lash Out isn't, like I said, it isn't used a whole lot. Intimidate is making a bit of a comeback. It wasn't so big in Series 1 and like Series 2 or Regulation A and B. But now that Mons have gotten more physical, more setup, like Intimidate now is more important than ever. But like, here's the thing, like with Lash Out, like, yeah, you get a double power if you get like a stat drop. But Darkest Lariat is stronger and it ignores stat changes. So I don't know how well Lash Out is going to be used. If a Pokemon doesn't have access to Darkest Lariat, I could see a Lash Out being picked instead. Let's see. Who learns Lash Out? The Ice Riders learn Lash Out, which could be really good. Yveltal, Bisharp, which means King Gambit learns Lash Out. I mean, King Gambit is already pretty strong. If you were able to bait a stat drop and use Lash Out with a Defiant boost, that could be pretty scary. Crawdaunt having Lash Out would be pretty good because it's really slow. And Grimmsnarl, like, can't fit in its moveset. Let's be real here. Maybe a good dark type move on Gyarados, but we've seen Gyarados be mostly supportive with Thunder Wave and Taunt. Next up, we have Poltergeist on Poltegeist. Since Poltegeist is getting this, we would have to assume that Poltergeist is also going to get it. Saying those 3 words like in a row is not fun. It is a very strong move and it removes items. So in competitive, being able to hit hard and remove items at the same time is really good, which is why like you see Rillaboom carry Knockout when it can. Like Knockoff used to be a really good move, and I think that being able to remove a Pokemon's item is still a really valuable thing, especially if you're doing damage while doing it. Now, as the series go on and Pokemon get items that can't be removed, think of Zacian and Zamazenta, like they can't have their item removed. It's gonna get less useful, but we're not in a Dynamax format. We're not in a restricted format yet. So being able to hit a Pokemon and remove them and get rid of moves is going to be really good. And the last one is expanding force. Like Hatterene definitely needs expanding force, but there also needs to be more distribution, because right now only Armoro gets it. Once like Calyrex comes back, hopefully they'll be able to get it. Lunala, for example. And then mons like Galarian Articuno like can really take advantage of expanding force. Cresselia can learn expanding force, which could help in like diversify like how you attack in Trick Room. You don't have to rely solely on just your Armorogue. Like you could run Ndidi Cresselia and still do like a decent amount of damage with expanding force. It could kind of change up how you play the long game with expanding force on hard Trick Room modes. And also, like, both Ndidis learn it, so both Ndidis can definitely benefit from it. Not to mention, this is really good for, like, Ndidi Male, which can set its own Psychic Surge. So it is a pretty decent special attacker at 105 with not bad speed. So what a lot of people will do is max it out, go, like, max, and either go fast or hit hard. And they do, like, a Life Orb with expanding force, dazzling gleam, and they would just be able to like really do a lot of damage without the priority without priority moves like knocking it out with like Psychic Surge. So this could definitely be good for more mons to get it back, but what do you think? Are they going to give it back, Grassy Glide back to Rillaboom? Are these distributions going to be limited? I don't know. I don't think they would make it more like difficult to teach the mons these moves if they were going to limit the move pool. I don't think they would just put it in the TM machine if it was going to have a smaller set of available Pokemon being able to learn this. All I know that is, as long as Rillaboom gets Grassy Glide back, I will be a happy camper. But what about you? Let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far in the video, I want to say thanks for watching. DLC soon. Super excited for it. I built a VGC team for this season that's starting, and eventually I'm going to jump back on ladder. But until next time, I'm Zach. We'll see everyone later.